Good morning, everyone. Today we are here on 19th of February on Canadian MEP show, and I'm with my friend Nick. Nick is incredible guy who is senior Azure architect, senior data architect, or IoT architect. He's such a wonderful journey, and working with him is always pleasure. He worked with certain very good projects with me, and it was really fun, working on different stuff. So over to Nick, how are you doing today?
Good, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good, and we are
Oh,
joining at morning time, so it's really 11:12 a.m. right now in Eastern time zone. So over the week of family day. So what's your plan? What you did yesterday?
skiing in negative, I think it was around negative 10 degrees, so it was fun.
That's so great. That's so great. Nick, I know, like with you, we could make so many series as well because I could see you, the data expert. Sometime you wear the hat of Azure subject matter expert, and and most of time you also had such a wonderful experience on IoT. Considering the your expertise, where you feel you are more aligned and then we will go from there.
Aligned, well, I've been working on data for a long time, a very, very long time, since SQL 6.0. So I'm more a data guy, but there's new data merging in like IoT streaming. And it's not about IoT, it's about the speed or the velocity of data pouring in versus the legacy data that we had, like transactional data warehouse. So I right now I only like to focus on complicated streaming data like semi-structure and structure. And recently I've been working on Azure video indexer, so that's fun too. So if you're a data guy, definitely work on it. It's got so many good features in AI and basically on video indexing. It's very fun, especially when it comes to um, segregating a human versus a cartoon. And so you have to understand data. So these are the fun stuff. So hopefully you can get your hands on it and understand and dig into it.
That's so good. Nick, last week I was live in 7 countries, as you know, and around 200 folks, 190 ish folks joined that conference, and they were asking about, hey, Deepak, what do you think where we are going with IoT? Sometime earlier, there was 3 years before, it looked like everything is IoT, IoT, streaming data, streaming data, streaming data, but now it's more shift towards artificial intelligence. So, is there is any fusion happening between IoT and artificial intelligence and the data or Azure ecosystem, or what is your take on that? Like, what is the future if someone want to be IoT specific?
Well, I think they're both needed 100% because the IoT or the telemetry data being streamed through it are the foundation of the data for the AI environment or machine learning. So I think they're 100% side by side. You have to have both of them. You have to understand deeply both of them. And today we just said, hey, let's focus on bringing data in. Let's focus with today's presentation, bringing data in, letting someone who's a developer or a manager to understand the basics of how they can set up an environment or how it looks like at the end. They don't have to set it up if they're managers, they're watching this film. So it gives them a good idea. Having them both is mandatory. A good example in why AI is very mandatory is just imagine you join a company, let's say Rolls-Royce. They have data for the past, I don't know, 15 years, and
Yeah.
you want to dig into their data and compare their, I don't know, let's say their oil pump from 15 years ago versus today's oil pump. Maybe 15 years ago, they made it with a cast of iron, and today they make it with a cast of titanium, for example. I'm just saying, well, you need AI to go and sniff these information out and compare apples with oranges, basically, let's say, and generate a report and say, hey, this was the how your IT device was working 15 years ago versus this new one, and the differences are, they will draw a graph and basically display the differences and the variety of telemetry data they have. But anyway,
Wait,
they're
wait
managed.
a
They
minute.
need.
You just mentioned 15 years. So basically, if someone is asking or thinking IoT is recently came into the in existence, so that's not true. IoT was here for years and years, but right now there is more acceptance and there is more appetite, and industry is getting mature to incorporate that streaming data. Is that you are trying to say?
Yeah, so the telemetry data has been around, I think, since 1950s. But
Amazing.
the IoT didn't exist. There's lots of things that didn't exist. I think in the past, let's say less than 15 years, maybe, it has merged the IoT world or the electrical engineer world with the
Correct.
cloud world. They've merged together and they come up with the IoT hub and streaming, and basically, technology changes and you have to blend yourself in it, with it constantly. So that's my thought.
Yeah, and I agree with you because the same question. I work on streaming data. I look there is two aspect: a software aspect of it, b hardware aspect of it. For hardware
Yeah,
aspect, it was kind of black box for me. Most of time I was understanding, and I was talking to a guy. He is BTech in electrical engineer, and he was talking about some protocols and some firewalls on hardware side of it. And I was just saying, okay, once I have data streaming data available, I will suck up that data, process the data, save that data into data lake. I will do my transformation in Delta Lake, and it will be available for users. And there was significant understanding buffer zone, which I have experienced between me and him, because he is more interested and he understand more hardware side of it, and you and me, folk like us, we are more into software side of it. So basically, would it be good suggestion to everyone who is listening this, so who we got a tremendous response on our videos, like, okay, if you are a software guy, you need to focus more into the software, and IoT doesn't
yeah,
mean only electrical or
yeah.
electromechanical sort of thing.
I think you should be smart if you're. I'm talking to myself just to begin with. So I think you should be smart, making sure which side you're on and
Thanks.
which side are you more focused on, which more knowledge you have. For example, today's presentation is about how could we bypass the electrical engineer knowledge about IoT devices. Because if I'm an Azure guy, if I'm a software engineer, I only take care. Basically, I just want to know what kind of data is being generated or what kind of telemetry data is being generated. Yes, I understand humidity. I understand, let's say, temperature, but there's so many other telemetry data that I don't understand, and you need an electrical engineer to basically study that and explain that. But my goal is to, how can I bring those information or telemetry data from on-prem environment to the cloud? And in today's presentation, we want to show you how you can bypass that just to learn the basics. Of course, you will have to connect with an electrical engineer to understand the devices, to understand how the devices are generating data. You don't need to understand that device has, let's say, it's got its own baby CPU, it's got its own baby
Oh,
RAM
wow.
memory, it's got lots of
Exciting.
stuff. You don't need to understand that. Just understand how that basically device is generating data and how you can study it.
Amazing. I cannot wait further to see the demo. So you are host, stage is yours, and let's go from there.
Yeah. Okay, so you can see my screen. Let me just get this up and running. Sorry about that. Oops, I think something is
No worries. It happened with Rahat as well.
yeah,
You are host, take
this,
your time. No worries.
let me just put it on screen too.
Yeah,
Can you
it's
see my
coming.
screen?
Yeah, it's coming. Oh, yeah, we could see that.
Okay. Good, good,
Awesome.
dude. Just 1 second. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Give me 1 more second. Something went wrong.
Maybe you want to.
Okay. So, um, today I'm gonna be focusing on how to set up a basic environment with a minimum amount of requirement without having a physical IoT device. And before that, I want to explain a little bit about the flow of the data. I want to talk about the variety of services that I need and the obstacles that are stopping me to do the work and how I can bypass them. Okay.
That's
And
good.
of course, we'll step into a sample scenario that we have up and running and ready. Okay, so just let's have a view from 10,000 feet. So definitely there's an on-prem environment that is generating data, and that data needs to come into the cloud, and it needs to go to the right landing area. That landing area could be anything. It's basically the data needs to go through from an on-prem environment to the cloud and go to the right final destination environment. So in reality, you will have some kind of chip, some kind of device that will generate telemetry data, and it needs a gateway to get to the cloud. It just, miracle will not happen. You have to set up some gateways. And basically, finally, you need to somehow save it in its file format. I'm
Some
using the word JSON.
example of gateway. Sorry to cut there, Nick.
We'll explain it. We'll get there. We'll explain it. Okay.
Okay.
And finally, the reality is, as a developer, you may not have the luxury to have that device. So you have to simulate. You have to write a program that simulates or generates the same telemetry data, and basically push that to the IoT hub. And from the IoT hub, everything will get pushed to the blob storage. So this is just a very 10,000 feet view from the flow from an on-prem environment all the way to the final destination environment. Just very high level again, what is a blob storage? A blob storage is basically storage. It's where you store your information. It's where you have your files and folders. And what type of files and folders you have? Basically, you have three types of files. It will be either structure, semi-structure, or unstructured. Structure, in this case, I don't think IoT hubs, they have too many structures, especially with new technologies. Semi-structure are IoT hubs that have part of it's structured, for example, device name, timestamp, and so on. But the second portion of the file is not structured. So the same device can generate only temperature, and then 2 minutes later, it could say temperature, humidity, and other stuff. So it changes constantly. So it's not a unique format. And finally, unstructured is like voice, film. These are the two most famous examples. Your IoT hub will need to have some kind of routing mechanism, basically to connect to a blob storage. So you need to set up the routing within the IoT hub. And finally, all this story that I told you is known as the IoT cold path analytics. Basically, is one of the architecting design in how you basically create these services and how they talk to each other and set up to each other to allow the data flow in from a source environment all the way down to the destination, which is a blob storage, which is known as the cold path or cold analytics. So let's go through a sample scenario. So a sample scenario, as a developer, I need to create a simulator. I need to have my IoT hub and a blob storage. And all of this route is called a cold path. What else do I need? So this is where my container or my folder exists. That's the second thing I need. Then I need to register a device in my IoT hub. And in my IoT hub, I need to create a custom endpoint. Custom endpoint There are features within IoT that you can set these up. And I need to allow IoT Hub to basically, we need to give access and grant to IoT Hub to be able to save files in the blob storage. Basically, these two services have to identify each other and give access to each other. And the next step is to create a route between IoT Hub and blob storage. So right now, at this point, my Azure world is completely set up. But what about my on-prem? So as I said, I'm a developer. I'm trying to create something. And the goal is there's too many works. This portion that I just explained is mandatory. You can't bypass.
So let me rephrase my understanding. Please feel free to correct. And I'm asking for our viewers. So basically, whatever the device we are getting, we need to register that device. That is the first step. Then we need to create a endpoint and give the access to those endpoints so their handshaking happen in between. And then we need to create the routes, and it will go further, and the message transmission will happen in between.
Exactly.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Only expert can explain this complex scenario in such a simple way. And thank you. This is beautiful slide. I know you have put you a lot of efforts, but it's so simple, like even layman guy like me who could understand that. Thank you so much, Nick.
So the next step is now I need to, as a developer, again, just imagine you want to learn this. It doesn't have to be a real project, okay? But the problem here now is I need a laptop, I need Visual Studio. There's lots of things that I need to know, I need to learn. I don't have time for it, and maybe I don't have the license for it. So the question is, how can I get rid of this? How can I get rid of this left side and on-prem and basically do some basic work? Well, guess what? Microsoft, we can replace all of this in the cloud. So Microsoft has provided a function which is called Azure IoT Device Simulator. It will generate some random stuff, and it will basically ask you on which IoT hub do you want me to send this information, which is the first yellow section that you see here. And the second question is, on what device? Because in IoT you could have multiple devices over there. So how does it happen? So once we run this function from the Azure CLI, what happens? Number one, you run the function and it starts generating telemetry data. Number two, it's pointing to a registry which is in the IoT hub, and that IoT hub has the route. Basically, it's got a route, and it will identify that data is coming in. It will combine that with a custom endpoint, and it have to have access, of course. And finally, it starts writing its data to a blob storage. That it is that simple. So now I can do everything in the cloud just for test purposes, just to learn and understand how this system works. So what happens at the end? Two things. Number one, here you can see it says my IoT device simulator.
Okay.
The simulator with the IoT, and it's generating data. So I've put some arrow keys here.
Here, I want to add, this is the simulator. You don't need any device. Microsoft already provided us, and Nick already said that. So all these messages which you see, these are real time and from simulator device.
Yeah. So as I said, you have to buy a device, understand it, see how it works. So there's too much time and effort that is required. If you don't have the time, technically you should not care about what kind of data is being generated. You just want to see, can you as a developer or an Azure guy or an Azure architect, can you get the environment up and ready? So what's flowing in, it's not your concern now. It will be in the future, but now it's not your concern. So finally, with setting up the IoT and all the options that we talked about, is if I go to the blob storage, I can see here's the blob storage, and we ran this.
So basically this data, guys, is streaming right now, a couple of minutes as well before. So this is the streaming data which is available in cool blob storage over there.
Yeah, we just picked a cheaper storage just to save a little bit time and money. But bottom line, if you go to the blob storage and find the basically whenever you're running it, you'll find your today's date timestamp as a folder and a subfolder, and then
Mhm.
you'll see files are getting generated every, let's say, 5 minutes. In this case, as you can see on the screen, it's mine is every 5 minutes. You can
Correct.
change it if you like. So if you wait another five or let's say 15 minutes, you will see three more files down here. I think Deepak has the
Yeah,
basically
for sure.
the screenshot on his environment ready. So maybe you can share if you like.
Yeah, for sure, Nick. Thank you so much. And let me do right away. So it is really exciting, Nick. I got the goosebumps, when you were sharing it. So thank you so much. Okay, folks. Most likely you could see my screen. Give me thumbs up, and I take it confirmation. So basically, this is my resource group, and in resource group, you could see this is our IoT hub, and this is our blob storage. So basically, these two devices under IoT project. And once I click the IoT hub, I'm landed over here, and you could see the right now we have 177 messages over here, and we use message quota of 8,000, and we have three devices which is streaming the data. So total number of messages which we receive from 10 a.m. to right now is around 177, 180. And this message, this is the count of message. You could see the real amount of device and real amount of the number of the message used. You could see the connected device here as well. So basically total IoT devices are three. So this is incredible. At you could see on your screen, you could get the visualization, so you could understand how much message are generating. And this is from last 1 hour, so basically it's very, very refresh over here. And if we have to see the data, today is 19th of Feb, which you could see on my screen as well. It started from 10:40, and right now we have so many, blob storage. We have these files. I think these understanding the beauty which you get and the message which we are getting from, so many audience. I got very good message from someone, and they said, Deepak, on this YouTube channel, on your these short videos where you bring the expert, you talk about the facts, you showcase the demos and make the things understandable. So IoT, which is kind of buzzword as well and very hype in the market, so Nick explained it in so wonderfully. And with this demo you could understand you don't need anything hardware device. You could just focus on the software and make the things happen. And right now in Canada, we are dealing with streaming data too much, like streaming smart cities, smart municipalities as well. So there is a lot of scope. Nick, you want to conclude with some your expert advice over there?
With the demo, you mean? Sorry, the
Yeah, with
demo?
demo, or
With,
maybe with because everyone want to know what is step they have to take to be successful in
okay.
IoT
I think
streaming.
let me give an answer for the demo. So I think the next step when someone learns the basics of the IoT, which is and it's exactly what we have demonstrated, I think they should focus on KQL. KQL stands for
Crystal
Crystal Query
query.
Language. So if and I'm going to explain an IoT scenario why KQL is very critical. So just imagine I just joined a company and they have data from 15 years ago and they don't know what it is. So it's not about having an IoT environment. It's about understanding the data first. This is IoT data we're talking about. So before you start working on that, try to understand the IoT data. So we have lots of KQL script that explains how many, let's say, how many folders we have, how many files we have, how many telemetry data per file we have, how many attributes per file do we have. So basically we're extracting all the metadata and everything from all these 15 years of data data with every single file, and understanding the trend of the entities and
And how much
attributes.
time it will take, Nick, if you have to extract 15 years of data and you have to query from KQL? How much time? It is very complex. How does it look like? You give us another topic where we want you
Yeah,
to be
it's
so,
a
and I know that would be so incredible when you share your expertise on KQL as well. Maybe
yeah,
we will hold that for now, considering
yeah.
being cognizant on the time. But yeah, KQL and Fox, that is next topic where Nick is talking about next time with live demo and so many things, and maybe next week as well.
Deepak, you like to get me into trouble a lot.
That's where we are friends, right? So,
Yeah, but anyway, my suggestion to people who are on the who are basically software engineers or even management, to understand or have their, be hands-on on KQL, because it's not only about IoT, it's about any type of data that you have, and even it could be about the resources. So KQL is the language of Azure, so you better learn this language. It's very, very critical. That's what I would focus with IoT at the same time, if I'm basically want to start working with IoT.
that
Oh,
sounds
and just to
great.
answer, so I missed it. You said how it looks like and how. Well, when you're writing KQLs, basically you will need lots of clustering. You will need to set up clusters on your Gen 2 to be able to read, let's say, 15 years of data, and it will be fast. Trust me, it will be fast.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nick. That's so incredible. So we are looking forward for your another session. And I know there are so much expertise and so much, expert advice are coming, and that will be benefited to larger audience. Thank you so much, Nick. You are a wonderful community leader and you are contributing to technical fraternity from so long. And absolutely, it was my pleasure to working with you on all those things. Thank you so much, Fox.
Yeah,
And we are looking forward to see you next time.
yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.